Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing fine. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Siri. So today in the video we are going to talk about a topic which has been suggested to me by one of my subscribers. So that is what I'm going to talk about in today's video, and that is how can I surround myself with more of English, which means how can I create an English speaking around me to be fluent in English. Now, before I dive into the topic, as I always do, let me just share my experience with this particular topic. In my previous video, I mentioned that I am from a Telugu speaking background. So in my home, we speak in Telugu. My parents speak in Telugu. My relatives speak in Telugu, my friends speak in Telugu. So overall, if you see, I am mostly surrounded by Telugu. Telugu is my mother tongue, so that's what I know perfectly, right? But in my mind, I'm telling you, I am surrounding myself with more of English, because that is not because I do not have respect towards my mother tongue. No, not at all. I absolutely have huge amount of respect towards my mother tongue. I love my mother tongue, but we know the kind of status that this language has, because of which we are trying to learn this language. And we also know that if we want to be fluent in this language, it is important that we surround ourselves with more of English. Now, how can we do that is what we are going to discuss in today's video. Now, for me, I'm almost surrounded by Telugu everywhere, which is my mother tongue. But even I was also very much aware about this fact of surrounding yourself with more of English to be fluent in English. I started really small, like I used to try and think in English. I used to put a conscious effort of thinking in English. Let's say, instead of saying these few small sentences in my mother tongue, I would just say them in English in my head. That's what I used to do. That's how I started. Now, reading is also a habit that I have developed to surround myself with more of English. See, when you read things, when you start reading books, you are going to think a lot about the topics that you have read. You are going to think about what you want to read next. So if you start reading books in English, your mind is somehow going to adapt to that environment of thinking in English. I'm not telling you only reading can help you, but that can also help you. There is a difference. So understand this. So reading is a habit that you can definitely develop to surround yourself with more of English. Yes, this is what I have observed in my case. Yes, initially I used to hate reading, but I am that kind of a person who loves to take up challenges. So reading was also a habit that I took up as a challenge. Now I continue reading. I make sure that I read at least one book every month. Now reading makes me feel better about myself. It teaches me a lot. And I'm more into self-help books. That's the genre I like. It depends on what kind of books that you like, okay? And reading is a habit that you can definitely develop. Now, creating an environment around you simply means creating that in your mind. If you are surrounded by people who speak in any other language other than English, which means you cannot change the environment. You obviously cannot ask everybody to speak in English. That cannot happen, because you yourself are in the process of learning, right? You cannot ask everybody to change for you. So what you have to do is you have to create an environment here. This is important. You have to create an environment in your mind. How is that going to happen? That's what we are going to discuss. So let's get into the video now. How is that going to happen is by watching a lot of content in English. Now, when I say watching a lot of content in English, that does not only mean watching web series or watching English films. No, not at all, because there are people who do not like web series and English films. Like me, I love watching Telugu movies. I cannot get rid of this habit of watching Telugu movies. If I have to watch a movie, I always prefer to watch a film that is in my mother tongue, right? Now, is that the only way that you can watch English content? No, absolutely not. You have many other ways. Like in my previous video, I suggested you guys that start watching interviews. I also mentioned that watching interviews is one of the best ways that you can surround yourself with more of English. See, when you watch a lot of English content, your mind is going to adapt to that environment of thinking more in English. Now let's understand why we are not able to think in English, because we are surrounded by people who speak in other language, right? Number one. And we watch more of content in any other language other than English. That is the reason we are not able to think in English. You obviously cannot change the environment, but you can watch content in English, right? There is wide amount of content available on YouTube that is in English. So you are absolutely free to choose. You have resources. You obviously can go out there and watch a lot of content in English. See, you can watch food related content, you can watch gardening related content, you can watch interviews, vlogs, but make sure that you watch only in English. Every day, every single day, whatever you're watching, make sure that you watch in English, especially if you are a person who is in the beginning stages of learning this language. I'm telling you, just keep watching all these English videos, because in the initial months it is going to take a little bit of time for you to adapt to those kind of environment. So you just keep doing it and you will be adapted to it very soon. Now just keep watching a lot of content in English. That is what I did, and that doesn't mean I do not watch content in my mother tongue. Yes, I do. I love watching content in my mother tongue. I mean, content in my mother tongue means I watch movies in my mother tongue. I do not watch anything else other than that. So keeping this as an exemption, like movies as an exemption, whatever I'm watching other than that, I watch it in English. Let's say I want to research about something related to my studies. What I do is, instead of researching that in my mother tongue, what I would do is I would simply do that in English. Okay, let's say I want to learn a tutorial on YouTube. So instead of choosing videos which are in my mother tongue, I would pick videos which are in English. That is how I am surrounding myself with more of English. So these are those small things that you can do to surround yourself with more of English. Like, when I say this, you might think that these are such small things, why we need to do it. No, you have to do it. Such small things, they matter a lot. They are literally going to take your journey a turn. They are literally going to change a lot. Change the way you speak, change the way you think, okay? Change the way you process thoughts, okay? These are those small changes, but they're going to help you a lot. So that's how I surround myself with more of English. Reading, watching a lot of content in English, just talking in front of the mirror. Whatever you're thinking, try to think that in English. Initial days, you have to stick to that process. It is going to take a while to adapt to that kind of environment, but later on you're going to enjoy it. You are going to be proud that, okay, I did that, because of which I'm able to speak proper English. That is what is going to happen. If I can if I can create such kind of environment around me, I mean in my head especially, why can't you? You obviously can do that. Who am I? I'm able to do it, right? So you too can do it. Okay, you too can do it. There's nothing difficult, guys. You are just assuming this as a subject. First, stop assuming this as a subject. This is a language. So learn it in the way you learn a language. Now, for example, I'll tell you my own experience. Like when I was really small. How did I learn Telugu? Just by looking at my mother, how she speaks, how she pronounces the words, and by looking at people around me. That's how I learned Telugu. Now, my mother did not taught me like, okay, this is where you use grammar, this is how you frame sentences. Not really, because if someone is teaching you like that, like framing sentences and all of that, that is a subject, that is not a language. But language is something that you learn from observing people. Language is something that you learn from consuming a lot of content in English, by listening to people, right? So what you need to do is, you need to listen to a lot of English, you need to watch a lot of content in English, you need to observe how people are speaking. That's how you learn a language. That's how you learn any language, not only in English, any language. Now, if you ask me how I learned, I still wouldn't consider myself as a person who's absolutely perfect in this language, but I'd say that I'm comparatively much better. There were days where I used to not even speak out even one single sentence in English, but now I think I'm able to express whatever I want to in English. Now, to reach this, to speak this way, I had to practice a lot. Practice is something that I always kept in my mind. That's a key. Practice is a key. I think everybody knows about that. I don't even have to tell you that. So practice is key. So it's all about you. It depends upon you, the interest that you have, the hunger that you have towards learning this language, and the importance that you give towards learning this language. So learn it in a way, in such a way, it's fun. First of all, it's absolutely fun. There's nothing that you have to stress your brain about. Do not stress too much on this language. It's very much fun to learn. You can learn it. See, and it's never ending process, guys. You have to just keep learning and keep enjoying, and in the process you are someday gonna be fluent, and you are gonna be really happy about it. Okay, to be happy someday, you need to go through pain. Pain in the sense, there's no pain as such, but I'm telling you, we go through pain when we have to adapt a new habit, like creating an